It's time for Don't Mess This Up, presented by Snickers. We've got some questions as we head into Week 8 that will hopefully help you not mess up your starting lineup. The first one actually has to do with maybe what we're wish casting, what we're hoping for, what we would like to see happen. The NFL trading deadline is coming up in just a handful of days. It is November 2nd. I believe the actual deadline is at 4 p.m. Eastern on November 2nd. So we've already seen a few, trades here and there. We talked about the Joe Flacco deal, him going back to New York. Blockbuster, right? It's going to change everything. But I figured, who is out there that is in a bad situation that we would like to see maybe freed and going somewhere else? So the question is, which player would you most like to see traded before the deadline?
For me and my fantasy teams, as well as for this player, I would like to see Allen Robinson get out of a city that he has made it very clear he doesn't like, in Chicago. We were all excited for Allen Robinson this year. I thought he was one of the safest bets to get 150 targets this year. I thought Justin Fields was going to be the best quarterback he's ever played with. It just hasn't worked out. He doesn't have 11 fantasy points in a game yet this year. I said on a show this week that I think he's almost droppable. The only reason I'm holding on to him right now is to see if he is dealt, because the Bears don't look like they're really going anywhere this year. He's already been franchised once. He's made it clear he kind of wants out of there. Maybe they do try to ship him for a couple of picks or something like that. If he gets traded, I think he still could salvage his season. But if he's there in Chicago, what's going to change and make it a better year for Allen Robinson? I don't see it coming.
Yeah, I really don't either. It's really a mess right now. And I was with you. I really thought, like a lot of people did, that Justin Fields is going to help elevate him. It hasn't, and I actually think it was Evan Silva that tweeted recently that it was actually better with Andy Dalton. For Robinson, it was better.
His two best games of the year, I believe, were with Dalton.
Yeah, with Andy Dalton. So this is definitely not worked out for us. For me, as much as I love the Robinson call, I'm going to go with Miles Sanders, because I don't know what the Eagles are doing with their running game. Sometimes it's like they forget that that's an option, right? That you can run the football, right? And I know you want to see what you have with Jalen Hurts. I get it. But you also can't ask him to stand back there and throw the ball as much as he has. You've got to be able to mix it up. They've got a good, talented, dual threat running back in Miles Sanders. I know he's hurt right now, but when he's healthy and on the field, he can do a lot more than they have asked him to do. And it just appears that the Eagles, I keep saying it, the Eagles don't love him the same way that we all love him. So maybe it's time to, maybe you need, as Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin had, you need a conscious uncoupling, right? Just everybody go their separate ways. We'll let Miles Sanders go somewhere where he can prosper. The Eagles can bring in a running back. Either they elevate Kenny Gainwell, they bring in somebody else they like. But let's let Miles Sanders go somewhere where he can prosper, because I think he's a lot better than he's given the opportunity to be.
I agree, and I think that's why the fantasy community can never quit Miles Sanders, because we watch him play and we're like, this guy is talented, but he had Doug Peterson holding him back with a 2 RB system for so long, and now I just don't get what's going on. Since week 2, his high in fantasy points is 10.1, and in the last 5 games, his high in carries is 11. He has single-digit carries in 4 of his last 5 games. I don't get it. I think he is a better running back than he gets credit for. And selfishly, I have Kenny Gainwell on a few fantasy teams that would really benefit if Miles Sanders was traded.
I do the same. I have Gainwell in a couple spots, and so everybody wins. Let's just make this happen. I don't think it will. That's not one of the names I've heard in the trade rumor mill. But,
And there's definitely teams out there that can use a Miles Sanders or an Allen Robinson.
Absolutely. So if we were making it happen, it would happen. But we're not, sadly.
Send him to the 49ers.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Allen Robinson?
No.
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, I think, would be pretty fun there.
Yeah.
Lead back.
Then it'd be one more running back that we have to try to figure out and sift through. Since we were talking about the Eagles, Jalen Hurts has been kind of a medical miracle, not medical, but fantasy miracle, in the sense that it doesn't really matter what is going on in the actual game. Jalen Hurts is going to get you 20 fantasy points. It just seems like a lock. There have been times, and you pointed this out, where he was in the third quarter at one point with less than a point, and he finished with 20 points. This past week, I think he only had 7 points in the third quarter and somehow figured out how to get over 20 points. It just seems to be happening regardless of how well he's actually playing. So How long can he keep this streak going now?
As long as he wants, I think. I know this week is a lock that he's going to keep it going, I think, against the Lions. I think he's going to be able to run on them, throw on them. But then he gets a really tough stretch where we could see it end. Chargers, Broncos, Saints, all three tough defenses that are stingy with quarterbacks. But the issue is the Eagles play terrible for 2.5 quarters, and then the end of the third and all of the fourth quarter, they're trying to come storming back. It's a lot of Hurts running near the goal line, taking shots downfield. So I think he is almost a lock to get 20 points pretty much weekly because of what he gives you with his legs. And if it ends, Marcus, I think it's going to end with like 18 or 19 points. Like, I don't think Hurts is going to go out and give you have a terrible game where he gives you 8 fantasy points.
I agree with that, and I'm looking. Right, like on paper, this should happen this week, right? It should happen this week against the Lions. I feel like when they're playing the Chargers, it's a situation where he gets you some garbage time points.
Yep.
In the end, honestly, I feel like if it ends, Denver could sort of be a place where it ends because their defense is okay. Their offense isn't going to score enough points to force them to really have to, go hard in the third and fourth quarter. So it could be like in Denver against Denver, in a couple weeks.
Could be similar with the Saints too.
Could happen with the Saints too. But I'm with you. It'll be like he gets you 17, 18 points, right? You're not going to get an 11 out of Jalen Hurts.
Are you buying this whole Gardner Minshew could take over at some point?
I mean, I don't think it's ridiculous, but I think if it happens, it'll be late. Like, it's not going to happen in the next month. It'll be, hey, the Eagles are out of the playoffs. It's week 17, something like that, which sort of stinks because that would be championship week if you're still playing. But it's like week 17, 18. Like, hey, let's just figure out what this offense looks like with somebody else running it. But I think it's possible. I just don't think it's happening anytime soon.
I agree with that, especially because, the Eagles are losing right now, but that's also good for them in a way because they have, 3 draft picks, 3 first-round picks next year, so they're going to want to get as high of a pick as they possibly can, try to get a quarterback, I think, because I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts, the real-life quarterback long-term, but I'm 100% sold on Jalen Hurts, the fantasy quarterback.
It's been a while since there's been, for me, a disparity this big between a guy's actual performance and his fantasy performance. I put it out there, and the response I got back most commonly was Blake Bortles.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts, I trust a lot more in fantasy than Bortles because Bortles, you needed a long touchdown late.
Right.
Jalen Hurts, you just need to have the ball in his hand, and he's going to give you points.
He's going to do it one way or another. So we'll see. Last big question for the week, and you sort of touched on this earlier, but is it time to just give up on the Bears passing game right now?
Yeah, I had expectation last week against the Bucs because that was not a great secondary, but they're going to be needing points. They scored 3 points against the Bucs defense last week. It just wasn't pretty. I said you could drop Darnell Mooney in my waiver wire article this week. I think Allen Robinson is 100% benchable, getting very close to being droppable. In 10-team leagues, I think he is droppable. And then Fields, I rank outside of the top 20 quarterbacks every week now. It's almost to the point where he's down there with Davis Mills and those guys because he's not running, he's not throwing the ball efficiently. It's been a huge swing and a miss by me and I know some others as well, but I was very high for this Bears passing game, and it's just awful. It's got worse since they moved on from Trubisky, which is saying a lot.
It really has, and we didn't think it could, but they have. I want to say they've bottomed out. I hope they've bottomed out because I don't want to see if it gets any worse than this right now. And I think for me the biggest surprise is that Justin Fields isn't running with the football. And I know Adam Rank, who obviously watches the Bears very closely, sort of has said that the way Fields runs is sort of like how Russell Wilson runs, where there's not a lot of design runs. He's the guy who can get out of trouble when need be. But he's not even doing that right now. But I would also I had just assumed, and you know what happens when you assume, but I figured they would just build in some runs, some sort of design quarterback runs for Justin Fields, and it hasn't happened.
The one thing we liked about Trubisky when he was the starter the last couple of years is that he can give us some points with his legs and run a little bit, and they didn't even you've said it time and time again. It's like they're calling play, trying to make Justin Fields be Andy Dalton, and it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
No, I don't get it. It's head scratching, and everybody around them has sort of suffered